Okay, so it is officially a Monday, July 27th. The reading rush is over, and I'm here to do a rundown of everything that happened. I need to do a few reviews. I want to go through all the challenges and what books I read for each challenge, and then kind of do a comparison of how I predicted this would go and what my TBR was versus what I actually ended up doing, because there are some differences there. And then finally, what badges and challenges did I complete? So let's start from the beginning. I've got my journal right here to help me remember what I need to do. All right, so the first reading challenge was read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. I initially, for my TBR, picked Animal Farm. And so I did read this, so check mark there. I'm going to go ahead and just throw the review in. So I finished this last night at like 11:41, and I am going to give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like in order for it to get 5 stars, it would have to be like one of my all-time favorites. Like, let me explain. All right, so let's start from the beginning. The first reading challenge was to read a book that matched the color of your birthstone. So I was born in April. My birthstone is a diamond, so I picked a white book. My TBR said that I was going to read Animal Farm, and I did. I finished it last night at 11:41. I'm going to go ahead and give this book 4 stars. In order for it to get 5 stars, I feel like it needs to be an all-time favorite for me. The way I rate books is probably different than a lot of other people rate books. It's all about enjoyability, and then like the knowledge I gain from it. So it's kind of like a 2-component thing. So it's very high because I feel like it's an excellent book. It's well written, and I did gain like a thought process from it, and I think others can as well if they read it. It's really interesting. However, is it an all-time favorite? No. Am I going to reread it? Probably not. I don't think it's a 5-star book for me, but it was really good. So it definitely deserves 4 stars. I think now that I'm done reading this, I'm going to read some reviews on this book and some analysis of how people dissect the book and what it means to them and what it means historically. Since I didn't read this in college, I just kind of read this on my own. And if I'm being honest, I skipped the beginning introduction, and I still need to read that. I said that last night, that I need to go back and read the introduction that kind of explains the historical references. And like I said last night, I need to go back and read the introduction because it's not considered part of the novel, so I skipped over it just for time's sake. But now that I'm done reading it, I want to go back because the introduction, I think, is really going to help me with the analysis of the book and understanding it deeper. So I haven't done it yet. I said I would do it, and I have every intention to do that. So that's on my list today. Even though the reading rush is over, I'm still going to complete that just for my personal self. All right. The second, okay. So the second challenge was to read a book with the word "the" in it. Now this is where I deviated a whole lot. I had initially picked for my TBR that I was going to read The Bobbsey Twins of Lakeport. I've never read this before. I've heard my aunts, specifically one aunt, talking about reading it as a child. And I love vintage children's books and middle grade and young adults books. So okay, number 2, read a book that starts with the word "the." So in my TBR, I picked The Bobbsey Twins of Lakeport, and I deviated. I did not read this book. So I chose it because I liked vintage. So, number 2, read a book that starts with the word "the." So for my TBR, I picked The Bobbsey Twins of Lakeport. However, I deviated. I did not read this book. I initially picked it because I enjoy vintage books. I like Nancy Drew. I like Brains Benton. I wanted to give this a try, and one of my aunts has talked about reading it as a child. However, I didn't get around to it, and it just seemed too thick. Even though it's probably classified as a middle grade book or a young adult novel. I'm going to say middle grade. I just didn't have the time for it, so I completely skipped over it. However, I did complete this challenge unintentionally, or maybe slightly intentionally, and just it was more subconscious than anything else. However, I did complete this challenge. Just not in the way I initially thought I would. So on Saturday, I got a bunch of children's books, and I showed you my book haul earlier in this video. And I completed reading So, like I said before, on Saturday, I got a bunch of children's books from a used bookstore. On Saturday, I got a bunch of used books from a secondhand shop, and I showed you like my little book haul of everything I got. In the book haul, there were 2 books that I actually read yesterday. Both of them start with the word the. So it is The Witch Grows Up and The Witch's Vacation. Both of these are really cute. I would not give them 5 stars. I'm going to go ahead and give both of these books 3 stars. And then when I was looking it up on Goodreads to put in my star rating and the fact that I read it, I noticed that it's done by the same person who does Clifford. So if you're a fan of Clifford, you might like this. Makes a whole lot of sense when you look at the art style. And then I think I also said earlier that these looked vintage, like they were from the 80s. Well, the copyright is 1973 on one book and 1979 on the other. So I was close, but these are technically from the 70s. So. And I know yesterday I said that these felt vintage, like they were from the 80s, and I was close, but incorrect. They are technically from the And I know yesterday I said these felt vintage and they looked like they could be from the 80s. Well, I was incorrect. They're technically from the 70s. I believe one is from 73 and one is from 79. So that's pretty interesting. Done by the same author as Clifford, so if you want to check them out. I don't know how easy they would be to find because I don't think I've seen them in a traditional bookstore, but still really cool. All right, number 3. Read a book that inspired a movie you've already seen. So I read Practical Magic. I already reviewed it. I gave it 2 stars. I'll throw the picture up here. Number 4, read the first book you touched. So I read, and I'm going to throw the picture up here because again, I don't have it. Both of these were audiobooks. I read You Can't Touch My Hair and Other Things I Still Need to Explain, or Still Have to Explain. Number 4, read the first book you touch. So again, this was an audiobook, so I'm going to throw a picture up here. I read You Can't Touch My Hair and Other Things I Still Have to Explain by Phoebe Robinson. I told you yesterday, I guess it was still this same vlog, but I told you yesterday that I gave it 5 stars, but I didn't really review it. So here is my opinion. I love the book. It's excellent. I highly recommend you get the audiobook so you can hear Phoebe tell her story. Now, I know in previous videos, I kept going back and forth between if it was a memoir or not. And at the time, I didn't really understand the difference, but I think now I understand that this is more of a collection of essays than an actual memoir. But regardless of the title, I still recommend the book. It's nonfiction, told from the author's perspective, and it's really insightful, but also really enjoyable and funny. It will make you think, but you'll be entertained the whole time. And considering the current climate of everything's going on, this is the perfect book to be listening to right now, and I regret not listening to it sooner. So 5 stars, and once I finished the book and reviewed it, the next thing that popped up was, here's another book by Phoebe Robinson, and I put it on my wish list. So that's something I'm going to try to read or listen to. I want to listen to the audiobook in the near future. All right, number 5. read a book completely outside of your house. And I know they altered this a little bit because of the pandemic and everything else, that's going on right now. Some people don't have the ability to leave their homes, so you could read by a window or play some nature music in the background or like sit by your house plant, whatever. You could alter this. I was actually able to read this outside of my house. It was very tricky since I live in a very hot location, but we had one really cool day and I read a decent chunk outside on my patio. I tried to do it again the next day. It wasn't as successful, but as I said in a previous vlog, I did have to go into town to collect a package, and while I waited, I finished that book. And that book in question was Super Mutant Magic Academy. I believe I gave this like 3.5 stars. I already reviewed it, so I'm not going to go into it again. This counted for the read outside, but because it's white, I also used it towards the Birthstone challenge just in case I didn't finish Animal Farm in time. So I had that as a backup. It was a crossover book. All right, number 6. Read a book in a genre you've always wanted to read more of. So I initially picked Doomrolled in Glitter by Lena Norms, which is a poetry collection, and I did end up finishing it, but I wasn't sure if I was going to. So the overlap here was also Animal Farm, because this is a classic and I don't read enough classics. So if I didn't finish the poetry collection, I could still count it for this book, but luckily I did finish the poetry collection. So poetry is tough for me. I don't read a lot of poetry, or at least I haven't in a while, not really since college, but I really enjoyed this, especially the art. The art is beautiful in here, and I want to say the third section of the poetry collection would be my favorite. And I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 stars. I really liked it. I want to reread it again where there's low stakes, low pressure, and I can mull over the poetry a little bit more, because I started to feel a little tense at a certain point and wasn't enjoying it as much as I should. So I'm definitely going to give this a reread, but for my first experience through it, I'm going to give it 4 stars. All right. Read a book that takes place in a different continent than the one you live in. So this is where I initially picked Giant Days. So I'll throw up a picture here. However, I didn't get to that. The nice thing is, and I had no idea at the time that I was reading this. Well, I did not, I figured it out when I was reading it. I take that back. I had no idea at the time that I picked this book for my TBR that it did take place in Europe. I thought it might, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to count on that. But it does take place in England. It says it like really clear in a couple of places that it takes place in England. So it takes place in Europe. I live in North America, so technically this counts. Is it the most like effective use of this challenge? No, I could have read something much, I don't know. I could have read something that really depicted a location better. This was not really about the location. This could have took place anywhere. I mean, it's a farm. We have plenty of farms in North America. I grew up in the Midwest, so this could have took place in the Midwest and it wouldn't really change. I mean, there's only a couple of references that really make it clear that it's Europe. Otherwise, they could have changed all those and it could have taken place in South Dakota, for all I know. So, yeah. All right. Those are the 7 book challenges. So I completed all of them. And even though I doubled up on challenges with Animal Farm, I did read 2 books here for the challenge. So that's 7 books. So 2 audiobooks, 2 children's books, 1 poetry collection, 1 graphic novel, and a traditional novel. That's my 7 books. So I completed that challenge as well. I also did all the Instagram challenges. If you've been watching these videos, you've seen every single one of them. So I'm not gonna like flip through all 7 pictures, but you get the idea. Video challenges, I've done every single video challenge. I did a TBR. I did multiple vlogs, 1 for every day. I did do the tag yesterday, and I got it posted yesterday as well. And then the bonus video challenges, I did make a beverage. Obviously, I altered that from the coffee or tea thing to just making a beverage. I matched my outfit to my book on one day, and I told you one of my favorite book memories. So I completed all of those. So Next up is the badges that don't go along with those, because most of them are double dipping. Like, so badges that aren't part of that list would be make a YouTube video, which is kind of like a vague collection of those. So yes, I did make a YouTube video. Read a 5-star book. I did do that. That would be my audiobook. You Can't Touch My Hair and other things I still have to explain. Participate in a live read-in. I did that. I did it twice, on Monday and Tuesday. And read over 1,000 pages. I did do that. I wasn't sure Let's start over. All right, so next are the badges. Now, some of these badges overlap with all of those challenges I just ran through, but some of them don't, and they're more specific. So I'm going to go over Okay, so next are the badges. Now, most of these badges are like double dips of the challenges I just read, so I'm not going to repeat those. That would be extremely redundant, but there are 4 challenges in here, or 4 badges in here. All right, next are the badges. So yes, most of these badges are repeats of all the challenges I just read, so I'm not going to reread those. That would be super redundant. However, there are about 4 badges that are not repeats. All right, so the first one would be read a 5-star book. I did that right here. The next one would be participate in a live read-in. I did that twice, once on Monday, once on Tuesday. I did it on Instagram and then one on YouTube. The first one, I kind of just stumbled into an Instagram read-in, and it was the one that was hosted by Raylene and Ariel. And then the second one was a read-in for the Patreon members of Books Unbound. I'm not sure if it was available to everybody, but I know that I got a notification on Patreon about it. Number 3, read over 1,000 pages. I did not know that I would be able to do this. I was very reluctant to count on this being a badge that I would receive, but ultimately, yes, even though I read a lot of short books, I read over 1,000 pages. So I will throw that number up right here. And then the last one that's on here that I completed, but was not one of the challenges I already mentioned, was complete all the reading challenges, which I did. So that was a badge. It's pretty much the same as reading 7 books and but yeah, so the last badge on here that's not been said is complete all the reading challenges, which I did. I completed every single reading challenge, including reading 7 books, so therefore I get that badge as well. Now, what was my pitfall? Twitter. I never figured out Twitter. I checked it a couple times. I was confused. I was like, oh, they're going to have another Twitter sprint on Sunday, and I'll just do the very last one and it'll be fine. And then I was looking around. I'm like, I think I missed all of them. I don't know if there's going to be one today. And I was convinced I had just missed the last one and that was it. And then I never went back and checked. So maybe there was one on Sunday. I don't know. Either way, I didn't participate in it. I mean, I did do those drawings and the activities that were in this journal that had to do with Twitter, but did I follow the directions and participate with Twitter? No. So I don't think I really deserve that badge. And then the last one was the book club. Now, I don't see the book club in here. I still have to fill this out with dates and color it in. I want to decorate this today. So I don't see the book club in the journal, but I know it's one of the badges on the website / app. And I don't get that one. I did end up downloading the book club book and listening to the first chapter while I cook dinner. I like it. I will be finishing it. I think it's the next thing I'm going to do, but it won't be in time for the reading rush. The reading rush is over. I'm not going to get that badge. I don't think reading the first chapter is enough to consider participating in the book club. No. But the knowledge of that book did lead me to it, so it will be a nice read. So there you go. So that's a rundown of everything I read, the challenges I completed. I believe I put on Instagram stories. I'm going to put the document right here, but I believe it was something like, I got 15 out of 17 badges on the app. and I did like 22 or 23 out of 25 things you could possibly do this week. So I feel like I really accomplished something. And the whole point of me doing all of this, if you didn't watch the TBR, the whole point is to get out of a reading slump. I was in a huge reading slump. I wasn't reading physical books. The most I would do is listen to audiobooks while I cleaned or drove somewhere, or like graded papers or something like that. And while I did focus a lot onto audiobooks, I still love audiobooks, especially for a busy person. I read a whole novel. This is something I would have drug out any other time of the year, at least in the reading slump I was in. So I read a whole novel. I read a graphic novel that I'd been putting on. But I read a whole novel. Like old Anna, that's not a big deal. Current Anna, this is a huge deal for me that I read this all in a week. It really pushed me. And then I read a graphic novel that I had been putting on hold forever that I bought and never read. Not to mention a poetry collection that I bought and then never read. So I do feel like I accomplished something. So I'm pretty happy. I hope you guys are happy. If you're still watching this. Anyway, that's it. That's all there is. I'm gonna go take a break from making videos. These vlogs are just too much for me, too much content all smushed together. But it was a nice experience. It really helped me learn how to edit videos. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I am slightly more knowledgeable than I was at the beginning of this week. So there's another win for me. All right, see you later. Bye.